This is Brandon McManus, Denver Broncos Super Bowl champion, and you're listening to The Scoop on OutScoop.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Scoop. This is Season 4, Episode 40. I am John DiCarlo, and here I am with Matt Vender again, just like it was 2 weeks ago. No Graham,
the room's
no Kyle.
Kind of half empty.
The room is half empty. Those guys are clearly trying to send us a message.
Yeah,
I don't think they love us anymore, but we're going to be fine.
We'll power through it.
Yeah, we don't need them. We need them, but we don't need them today. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing well. Yeah, we just finished up. We're literally now, but we just finished up a pretty lengthy interview with Jason Ivey, who's Director of Player Development, a newly named member of Aaron McKee's staff here at Temple for men's basketball. We just finished up with Jason, and we'll play that interview for you guys in a little bit. But, yeah, definitely another lengthy interview, but I think some good stuff in there for sure.
Yeah, so what you're going to hear next, again, Jason played at Temple during the John Chaney era, was a freshman on that Elite Eight team that almost knocked off the Fab Five. He talked about that. Talked about his coaching career. Again, this is, as the Director of Player Development, I had just asked him, I said, hey, for people listening at home, what can you do, what can you not do? He can't recruit. He can't really be on the court during practice and actively instructing. He can, as we understand it, can talk to guys off the floor. And again, we'll be a voice for Aaron, and just like Mark Macon will, but can't be out there recruiting on the road. And
he put it well. He can sit there at practice and clap for a good play, but he can't go out there and say, hey, you should have done this, or you should have set a screen here, or something specific like that. He's not allowed to point out those things in the practice.
Yeah, and again, and what you'll hear this in the interview for those of you maybe who were not following the program in the 90s, didn't see Jason play, or weren't as familiar with his career. He did get into coaching after he was done playing professionally. He played in the USBL, right, and then played, I think, professionally in Australia. And then got right into coaching. He coached at University of Missouri, Kansas City with Dean Demopoulos, a former longtime John Chaney assistant. And then the interesting thing there is Dean leaves after a year, has a chance to go join the Seattle Supersonics when the NBA started allowing teams to play zone. So Jason's sitting there, but remained on the staff for another 6 seasons. Then was out of the game for a year, goes and joins Dan Leibovitz at Hartford, and then eventually got out of the business. And he just said, yeah, I've been out of the business for a while. He had been at home in Alabama selling cars, but he said this was the right opportunity. He's happy to be back. So, again, you're going to hear this. This is close to an hour conversation, similar to like what we have with Mark Macon, what we have with Jimmy Fennerty, what we had with Monte Ross last week. So some good stories here from Jason, just some thoughts on the program. And so we'll play this for you and then talk to you again on the other side of it. All right, so we are fortunate to have with us Jason Ivey, Aaron McKee's new Director of Player Development. Jason's joining us on the Scoop this week. Jason, thanks for making time for us. We appreciate it. Just tell us first, like, how this all came together, how it came to be that you came back to work for Aaron and you'd been back home and been out of the coaching game for a while. When did this all kind of start coming together?
That's a good question. It's kind of funny. I think it just kind of entailed itself over period of time. I think like even before Aaron came back, me being a former player, I've just always kind of stayed in contact with the program, even with Coach Duff. I love Coach Duff. He came over. Me and my wife, or either me, every year I'd come up to a couple games. Then we went out with Dean with UMKC and got into coaching there. So even when I went back home and got out of it, I've been doing some refereeing on the side with some high school. I've done everything I could to stay around the game as much as possible. And I've always stayed in contact with Aaron, as a fan, watching games. Hey, watched the game tonight, I thought we did this well, I thought we didn't do this well. Great game tonight. Even with, Sean Trice, me and him were good friends, the same thing. Hey, thought y'all did this well, thought we didn't do this well. They went down to Georgia. I went to that game. It was close to Alabama, went far. So I just kind of stayed in contact and just kind of, like I said, stayed around the game as much as possible.
And obviously, you know, when Aaron first was in line to get the job, obviously plenty of Temple people were reaching out to him, trying to gauge his interest to see if maybe they could join the staff. But what was it about you that made you appealing to him for the job?
I think there's several things. I think it's our time playing together. Even when, you know, him and Eddie being older players and me coming in, I think they understood that I had a good feel for the game. I think Coach Chaney understood that. And then, of course, me getting into coaching and then having that experience, then from several different angles, from, like I said, being an assistant coach, being a director of operations. And, we've always had a good relationship, and we've always worked well together. And, you know, when it all came up, you know, I just got a funny story. I just kind of said, hey, you know, I understand there's a lot of people reaching out to you. I've got some experience. I bleed cherry and white, just like I'm sure a bunch of the other guys that's going to reach out to you. But, you know, I just want you to take a look at my stuff. And, you know, if I can help you, you know, great. And I even told him, and if you could hire me, and you called me out of the blue and said, hey, there's a kid in Montgomery, there's a kid in Birmingham, just want you to go look at him, see if there's any good. I told him I'll be in the car in a minute. Because I love Temple. I love Temple basketball. I love what we represent. So I'm always going to be, you know, a Temple guy no matter what. So I think that had a lot to do with it.
You mentioned you stayed around the game for the last few years. What made you think you were ready to get back into coaching?
I've always known I've been ready to be back in coaching. The only thing that's been lacking for me personally was this opportunity. You know, there's a lot that goes with it. When you're a younger coach, you can kind of make some different sacrifices in your life. But me being married with 2 small children, understanding, like for instance, I met my wife here. I'm from Alabama, she's from Syracuse. My daughter was born in Raleigh, North Carolina. My son was born in Missouri. You know, you get to that point, and then you get to a point where it's like, okay, am I hurting my family to do this? And is it the right situation that would make it right to do that? So am I helping my family or am I hurting my family? So I found that at that point in time, it was better off for me to be where I was. I would put in for some high school jobs in there, but, you know, those jobs are taken. No one's saying volunteering, hey, I'll quit and let you have the job. You know, they're not doing that. So, but like I said, I got into refereeing. I would still go out. Like if I saw a kid, hey, there's a kid you might want to come, take a look at or whatever. So that's mostly it. Family becomes the most important thing at some point in time. And now they're older. You know, I got my son's 16, my daughter's 20. It's a little bit more easier to navigate that situation at this point than it was then.
So for people listening at home, tell them what this job entails, what you can do, what you can't do. I mean, you can't go. A lot of people know you can't go out on the road and recruit. But what is director of player development? What does it mean?
Yeah, I'm a non-recruiting guy. Can't get with the players on the floor. It's kind of exactly what it says, though, as far as helping player development. There's a big turn from coming from high school to going to college, and a lot of people are putting that in. You look at Duke Smith, a lot of them have opened up that avenue because they understand, you know, the kids need some mentors. They need somebody to talk to, somebody who's been through those situations, someone to help follow up. You know, if I have to make sure a kid's going to class, or follow up with, you know, with one of the academic advisors to make sure they're doing well and that they're making the transition. You know, it's one thing to be in high school. You go to school at 8, get out at 3. You know, you get to college, you may have a 8:40. Now you got to go back to get something to eat. You get a chance to lay down. You got a 12:40. You don't feel like it. You know, I might want to be the person there knocking on the door saying, hey, you know, let's make sure we go and make this class. Just making the transition. You know, there's a transition there. There's you know, kids just need someone to talk to a lot of times. Hey, coach, you know, had a bad day today. This was going on. Okay, you know what? I've been through that. This is how I can handle it. This is how I can help you handle it. This is how I can help you get through it. And then at the same time, as far as, you know, with Aaron goes, you know, me and him can sit down, me, him, Mark, somebody else can all sit down and we can discuss basketball and, you know, things to do and things not to do. But, you know, as far as the players, I'm just tuned on making sure they make the transition, that we keep their head straight so that at the most part of it, all they really got to deal with is going to class and being basketball players. Everything else they've got, you know, it's kind of a counseling job in a way, you know, at the same time. So I'm looking forward to it. I've already gotten into it. I've learned a lot of the guys. I'm building relationships with them, and that's what a lot of it's about. And that's what I relate everything else I've been through. From selling, you sell a car, you build a relationship. Everything comes back to trying to build a relationship and get an understanding of people and let people get an understanding of you when they trust you. And they believe that, hey, he is here to help me and he can help me. And that's that role.
So you can't even, like, when the team's practicing, you can't be on the floor, or you can't?
I can't be on the floor. I can be in the gym watching, you know, I can clap for a good play, but I can't, you know, I can't yell out, you know, hey, Quentin, man, you should have made that cut over there, or, you know, hey, this is a better way to do that. That's where my line is drawn. But, you know, I watch, yeah, I can watch practice, I can do anything, but no kind of coaching, no direction, you know, no changing. No matter how much in my mind I'm going, you know.
Can they meet with you after practice and say, like, hey, Coach Ivey, what am I doing wrong? Like, you're allowed to talk, or is that kind of?
You know, I would stay away from that just in case. Like I say, you don't want to put them in any situation where you're crossing any lines. You know, but they come off and say this, and I can say, hey, you know, Coach yelled at you today, but, you know, keep your head up. Listen to what he said as far as, you know, take the explicitives out, and this is what he meant. You know, he just wants you to be a better person, a better player, that type of thing. Again, more like counseling, keeping their heads up. You know, keeping them, you know, the difference between, oh, man, Coach yelled at me today. You know, man, Coach loves you, man. That's why he's yelling at you. He stops yelling at you. This, you know, that whole type of thing.
You just want to still be in Aaron's ear and be like, after practice, you'd be like, hey, this is what I'm seeing and stuff like that.
Yeah, because that's a conversation between coach and staff. So, yeah, we can always do that. But then, like I said, I can't do any coaching on the floor, any direction with the kids. But I'm excited about my role. Yeah. It gives me a chance to get back into it. You know, there's always other opportunities down the road. But for where I am right now and coming back and learning, I think it's the perfect position. It gives me a chance to build relationships with those kids. And that's what it's about. That's recruiting. Everything is about building those relationships. So at some point, everything comes back to that.
What's it been like just working with the current guys on the team right now, and how have they responded to you being on staff?
Oh man, the kids have been great. They've been very responsive. You know, just like anything else, you know, you open the door one day and then there's somebody new there, but that's where, you know, it's up to us to kind of open the door for them, make them feel like, okay, this is, you know, this is not some guys just coming in and, you know, just trying to have a job. Like, he cares. They care, you know. So I try to, again, remember everybody's name, call them by their first name, ask them how the classes are going. Just give them that genuine openness of, hey, yeah, we're different, but we're here for you. And we want your success. We want you guys to be successful. You guys being successful makes us successful. So it's a two-way street that, again, it's all about trust, and it's been very well. They've been very receptive.
Some of the younger fans may not know you paid your dues right away. Once you were done playing professionally, after a couple of years, you went with Dean, and then you went to Hartford, and you got into it right away once you were done playing. What made you want to get into coaching? Is this something you kind of knew that you wanted to do, or was there kind of a moment where you're like, I think I want to coach?
That was a moment. And a lot of it had to do with what I went through here at Temple. You know, when you come to, at a certain level, you come to college, you come to play, you want to get your degree. Everybody wants to play professionally. But that was a point where I understood that what Coach Chaney did for me more than anything was to help me become a better man, better human being, and I saw that as a coach, because we use the word coach. The word is teacher, is what it really is. And I was taught how to be a better person, how to be a better man. And I said, I would love the opportunity to be able to do that for some other young men or young people that are going through that same change. You got to remember, that's an 18 to 22 year change period. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff going on in your mind. There's a lot of stuff going on mentally, physically. There's a lot of stuff going on. And I understood the importance of that. And I wanted to be able to give that back. That same experience I had of, hey, I'm going through this and there's somebody that cares. Because Coach Chaney did a wonderful job of relating basketball to life. And a lot of it you didn't get at 18, but by the time you were 21, it started to make sense. So I felt like that was something I could give back. I had the mentality to do it. I felt like I had the personality to do it. And I've been, fairly successful at that part of the job. And I think I've had a bunch of my kids, that even ones that transferred, comment on Facebook, hey, Coach, man, you're the best coach I had. How you say that? I don't understand. You cared. And that's, when I hear that, it's all worthwhile.
If you could take us back to when Dean gets that job after being an assistant under John Chaney for so long, he has to carefully craft his first staff and he chooses you to be on it. What did he say to you then? Why do you think that he picked you?
Same thing, personality. I knew the stuff that he wanted to put in, from the stuff with the zone, offense, and being a guy at that time, at that age, that could also relate to the players. And again, I think I did fairly well at that, especially making those transitions. So when other people that was new to the staff, when he used certain terminology, I knew what he meant, what he was trying to do, where he wanted to put it in, and I could, at that point, position those players and put those in those spots, and actually better teach them, how to do some of the stuff that we did.
So when Dean left after that first year, what's going through your head? You had
a lot, actually. Yeah, that was a weird time. Dean did a great job. He called me, let me know what was going on. That's a heck of a chance to pass up. You get a chance to. The timing was really weird from him to go, and then that next year is when they'd be opening up the zone stuff. The zone looks, and there's nobody from Syracuse that had left Boeheim at that time, and then right then, you've got a coach that's left one of the greatest zone defenses in history, and you get a chance to pick his brain. So I understood it, didn't have a problem with it, felt a little like, okay, what's going to happen here? Luckily, the guy that he had picked as his associate head coach, wonderful guy, Richard Zavosic, taught me a lot in the 6 years I spent with him. He got the job. We had all worked well together. He knew what I could help bring to the table. So, he kept me on. And, we had a good run. We had a winning record. It's just, certain schools at that time, everybody decides when new presidents come in, new ADs, they make changes at that level. So that was understood. But, I had a great time in Kansas City. I learned a lot. That's one of the reasons I'm here now. So I take all of that in stride. Every step along the way has been something to make me a better person, a better coach, and that process was part of it.
And so you're out of the game for a year, kind of like maybe like another watershed moment in your career, and then Danny wants to hire you at Hartford. What made you want to get back into it? Just say, hey, another chance to work for a guy from Temple, and it's kind of a no-brainer?
I always wanted to, never wanted to be out of it at that point in time, and there was another opportunity. Like I said, out of it, right at a year, he has an opening. They created a new position as director of ops, And again, I feel blessed that there was another guy that thought of me. Again, I mean, there's a track record of that, and I think there's a reason to that. I think I've done a good job of building relationships, not for what they can do for me, but what I could do for them in a way, and what they can do for me. And when I say that, what I mean is I build relationships with people because that's who I am. I don't expect anything from it. I don't think you should expect anything from it. And I think people realize that from me. There's a genuineness that, hey, he's just checking on me because he really wants to know how I'm doing. Or he really cares how my son played in the soccer game. And I do, because to me, that's just, I mean, we're all here on this earth. We've been here. That's what it's all about. It's all about relationships. Just because, hey, I like you, I want to get to know you better. I want to know, what it is that makes you go. And you should know what makes me go. And if I get a chance to give you a pat on the back and make you feel better about your day, then that's what I'm intended to do at that point in time. That's what I was there for. That's what you were there for. And I think people sense that about me, and I can relay that to other people.
So John Gallagher came in and promoted you to the ops position that you mentioned. What made you then get out of the game and return home?
Well, at that particular time, actually, John came in and really promoted me to assistant coach at that time, which was really good. But at that particular time, again, like I said, I think everything happens for reasons. My dad had started to deteriorate a little bit in health. Like I said, we had been away, forever, me, my wife, the kids. And so I thought at that time it was better for us to kind of go back home to Alabama. And if you want some irony, and I don't take this as a sad thing, like I tell everybody, I put this in a situation where it was a blessing from God. I got back home October the 18th, 2010. My father passed October the 18th, 2011. It sounds sad. It's not. He would go pick my kids up from school. They would go to Wendy's. I mean, all of a sudden now, they know my dad know the kids, but now they've got a relationship with Grandpa Ivey. A whole year. So my dad passes, and then my grandmother, who is 97 now, her health starts to deteriorate. Well, my dad's gone. So now I'm the one that's in charge of that. So I've had to be in a position where I had to put her in a home and take care of her, but someone had to make those decisions. So again, people say, oh man, you never should have been out of coaching. Everybody's like, oh man, I hope you get this job, I hope you get this job. That wasn't meant at that time. That's not where I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be where I was supposed to be to take care of what I was supposed to be taking care of. Mm-hmm. And now that stuff's taken care of, and then this opportunity opens. So like I said, I don't believe in coincidences and accidents. Everything happens for a reason. And at that time, that was my reason.
There's obviously, again, you can't work with the guys on the floor, but you can at least talk to them. Is there, even just from what you've seen, just either watching them before getting the job here, you got to love all of them equally, but is there a guy that you see on the roster where you think, that guy's got some untapped potential? That guy's kind of like a sleeping giant we're waiting on.
Oh, man, there was a few. I was watching all the games, prior to and before. And there's just certain guys, I'll be honest with you. Nate Pierre-Louis, I love the way he gets down and plays defense. J.P. Mormon, I love his game. A lot of the guys, I talked to a bunch of the guys, Mark Jackson, they said, oh, you only like him because he's a better version of you. I said, hey, that might be what it is. I said, he does remind me of myself, but he's that guy. He's gritty, and he does, he'll do whatever it takes to try to help the team win, whether it's rebounding, whether it's layup, whether it's blocking the shot, or whatever. So, those two guys have really jumped out at me. I love Q Rose for just his ability, what he can do, where he can go, at his size and his skill. there's something from all the guys that I can look and say, man, I like that about that kid. I like this. But those three guys stand out. But like I said, J.P. Mormon, I really got a lot of respect for him. I hope he can continue to grow to where he's going. Him and Nate.
Quick follow-up with Q. We've asked the other coaches this. There are times where he looks so dominant, and you can see why he declared a couple of years ago to get the feedback. And then there are times where it looks like, I don't know, like, yeah, obviously we're not out there, we're not in the huddle. It looks like he'll struggle with his confidence or something like that, and he'll have a bout where he's kind of inconsistent. You can't be there on the bench. For him, is it just confidence and repetition, saying, hey, man, you just made an NBA-like move here? Is that just the next corner that he has to turn in his game?
I think so. I think it's just like you said, it's confidence. Confidence goes a long way, especially with basketball players. But that's kind of what I was talking about in that development stage. As outsiders looking in, people watch that. And like I said, I've been there, so I understand it. You watch that, and you're like, wow, man, Jason Ivey had a great game the other day. The day he didn't look, well, they don't know I just broke up with my girlfriend the other night before. Or they don't know I studied really, really hard for this test, man, and I thought I was going to get a B and I got a D. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that does relate back to how you're feeling when the game goes on. Mm-hmm. And fans miss that point sometimes, I think. Mm-hmm. And not saying that that's what's going on with him, but those are the things that people have to remember about. That these are kids. Mm-hmm. These are these 18 to 22-year-olds that are going through these changes mentally, physically, and there's other things going on. That's where player development comes. That's where I come in to try to be like, okay, hey, let's not worry about that. Or let's work our way through that. Or you can talk to me about that so that now when we go back on the court, all we got to think about is basketball. So you can continue to make those pro-like moves. And you can continue to think like this because now you've talked that problem out. You've dealt with that. Or you got somebody that you can talk to about that. So now I can concentrate on class and being a better basketball player. So that's what I think part of my job description is. So hopefully we'll see some, improvement there, and you'll be like, okay, I can see where these guys are going, and they are helping and developing.
Well, when you were a player here, you obviously mentioned, you touched on this a little bit, but your three-point shot really improved from first 3 years. I don't think you attempted a three-point shot, right? And then you shoot nearly 40% from three, go 20 of 51 as a senior. Obviously, that's player development. You've seen it firsthand. So what went into that, and how do you kind of coach that, or how do you kind of do that?
Well, that part I couldn't do because there was a lot on the floor. And I tell you what, I actually did shoot a three, but I traveled before my junior year, so it didn't count. That was the only one I actually ever shot, so it didn't count.
How much?
And it went in too. I remember that.
How much? What did John Chaney say to you?
By then I had traveled, so I turned the ball over anyway. So I don't know. I mean, we're on a podcast. So I don't know if I can repeat any of those words. Jason, you're traveling, whatever. Yeah. But what you said, it was true. It was a lot of player development. A lot of that goes to Coach Jim Maloney. He took three of us, me, Leonard, Huey Futch, Leonard Stewart, and he really worked with us. That was around the time when one of the rules had changed, and all of a sudden you could work with 3 or 4 players outside of the season as long as it was there, and that was right around that time. And it was a funny story because Mark Jackson, me and him were roommates, and he had come in, and of course we had William Cunningham, 6'11", Derek, 6'10". I'm 6'6", 3/4", 6'7", trying to be a post player. Not doing a bad job, but, Coach kind of called me in the office and said, look, we got Mark, we're really big, I'm going to play Cunningham, he's 6'11", you've got to be able to give me something on the perimeter. If you want an opportunity, to play, just, the senior year, you've got to be able to get the ball from A to B without turning it over. You've got to be able to give us something. And Coach Maloney, who me and him had a wonderful relationship, he got us together. He said, hey, I'm going to work on you guys' guard skills. This is what we're going to do between you 3 guys, making you more of a three position players. And man, we worked. We worked on footwork. We worked on shots. Eddie Jones came back, gave me a couple of pointers about jumping forward on your shot and stuff like that. And what a lot of my fellow players knew is like, playing pickup, I wasn't a bad three-point shooter. I just knew better than to do it, when coach comes. So quick story to tell you how this really came about. Coach knew it. Coach knew I worked on it. So we were going to play St. Bonaventure, and they had a shooter that was about 6'7". And so coach put in a rule, and he was like, Jason's going to be that guy. So if he gets any open shot, regardless of if he makes it or misses it, I'm acting like it's a make, and you guys are going to run. I think I shot 90% that day.
Oh,
wow. And Coach Maloney's just kind of standing over there doing his little thing, like smiling, looking at the coach like, I told you can shoot. And so I think the next game we played St. Bonaventure, and that was maybe the second three I took, and I think I went like 3 for 5 that game. And Coach, even at that point, he was like, hey, we'll put a play in for you. Don't tell nobody. We're just going to put a play in for you. He called it the Jason slide. And Danny, I always remember that too. So that's how it came about. Just hard work and practice, man, and confidence. Nothing like confidence.
But is it just as simple? I mean, as repetition, just getting in the gym, like
it is.
the edge of the summer?
It is. There's anything else. I mean, think about it. You're a kid. You want to learn how to ride a bike. First time you get on it, you fall. You get on it again, you go 2 more inches, but you still fall. Eventually, sometime down this summer, we see you riding your bike. I mean, it's just like anything. It may come harder for someone, it may come easier for somebody else, but there's nothing like putting in the work, putting in the time, and repetition. If you get used to it, muscle memory. From where you are to where you want to be, it's always about hard work in anything. That's the other thing we're trying to instill in these guys, that you gotta maybe cut a little harder, maybe run a little harder. But that's what the coaches are going to do. And like I said, I'm going to pick them up when they feel down, and we're going to try to change the culture, just make everything a little bit stronger here, mentally, physically, and across the board.
How do you coach rebounding to today's players? Because Temple's a team that's really gotten killed on the boards at times the last couple of seasons. Then you have a team like Houston that doesn't have a lot of height, but really bought into team rebounding, and it worked well for them. So how do you kind of take that idea and make a difference with this team? I
don't coach rebounding, but if I did, if I could coach rebounding, there's a couple different things to it. I mean, that was one of my key aspects when I played, was rebounding. I think one is a desire, and then I think another one is positioning. And what coach used to teach us is something we call it sight and flight. And we get a little technical here, but I mean, if you look at a lot of things with basketball and anything else, playing pool, it's angles, it's math, it's physics. If you can get a mindset to notice that a guy's taking a shot from there, what the trajectory is, sometimes you can get a little jump on it, and maybe that was a gift I had. But like for people like Nate, who does it real well, JP, a lot of it is that desire. I want that ball a little bit more than the next guy. And if you can put yourself in a position to go left or right, which I see some of them do, they're really good at it as well. Well, I see a lot of other players, they just kind of watch the ball. And I'm hoping maybe that's something, one of the coaches can bring to the guys. Like that might be something I could mention in a meeting or something, say, hey, this is what helped me rebound better. Maybe that can be passed on to some of the guys. I don't know. But I think if you get a mentality of just playing a little harder, a lot of times, I was watching the game the other night, P.J. Tucker. He was getting every rebound. He was just out playing harder than a lot of people. One time I saw the ball bounce over 4 people's head and go to him. He didn't even move. But it's like the ball said, that guy wants me more than anybody else. He showed me this. He's made the other moves that I want to be in his hands anyway, you know. And I mean, it's funny, but I've always felt that way because I could see a ball going. I'm going, you know what, that ball's going over there, and I would take 2 steps that way, and lo and behold, the ball was going that way. And then other times I'd be standing there, and hey, here you go, Aaron. This is what I just got. You know, you can believe this.
Hey, you mentioned that your senior season, the development with your shot, because you guys really needed. You weren't a really deep team that year, and you guys needed. I remember Coach Cheney said, "I need some shooters." That year, you guys beat Oklahoma in the tournament, and again, some people, younger fans, may not remember Ryan Miner. He was a shooting machine. Eventually, gets into playing baseball.
Yeah, played for the Sixers for a while.
Yeah, familiar story for you guys. You guys get into the tournament and just make life miserable for a big-time shooter, and you win that game before you guys lose to Cincinnati in the next round. What are your memories of that beating them, just dominating them in that game, and what it was like? I don't know I can't remember if you had to defend him. Well, you're playing zone.
We played zone. We played the zone. We did some
different
different things. Abercrombie was on that team. Again, a lot of teams just struggle against zone, and especially the way we played it when we could identify a shooter. Coach Cheney did a good job of making adjustments in that zone of, okay, we're going to play zone, but as everybody already know, our zone was more of a matchup.
Right.
What I always described it is a man-to-man with perfect help. Because if you on the ball, you on the ball. And then there were guys like that where we would say, okay, you're on him. Normally, if he comes off of this, we're back here. But on this particular guy, we're going to step up, or we're going to do this, or we're going to make these adjustments. And it was amazing to see some of those teams. I mean, you could see it in their eyes. They were like, hey, Coach, we practiced this, but you didn't tell me they were going to put 6 people out here.
Yep.
You know? So you could always sense that. But then you say going back to Cincinnati, there's a couple of years there. I think we lost to them my last 2 years. We always had a little battle going on with Cincy. They were always a good team. That's why when they hit the league with the AAC, I just kind of frowned. I was like, that's going to be trouble. They're Cincinnati. They are actually in our league now. But, it was amazing. A lot of teams we played, especially outside of the A-10 at that time, when we would play Kansas or just, you know, a great team.
And they would have no idea.
But they had no clue. I mean, you couldn't stop a man-to-man. You wouldn't have a chance. But, you know, again, it's a man-to-man with great help. So if you make a swing and you make a drive and it looks open, and all of a sudden there's 2 guys trapping you, and you're looking out and saying, okay, I'm going to go this way, and then there's a guy with his hand in that lane, and you look over there and there's a guy in his hand, and they don't know what to do. And they just break down, and man, those were fun games.
Yeah.
Those were fun games. The bad games was the guys that hit threes.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a quick follow-up about that. Again, and we've talked to Aaron about this. It's like it's harder to play a true matchup today. Players can shoot better, the game's spaced differently and stuff like that. But you remember what it was like when like you said, where guys would come off the floor and they would say in post-game interviews, it looked like we were playing against 7 guys. They helped perfectly. They switched perfectly. And you remember what that mentality was like, that like you guys there was a toughness about you where you set the tone on defense, and that allowed you guys to go far in March. Again, you're not going to be out on the floor coaching, but if you were just talking to a guy, what do you think Temple can take from that? Look, even though it was a different era, you know, maybe you could play a possession of zone and stuff, but how does that come together when a team buys into things defensively and it just becomes contagious and it allows you to kind of to everything else kind of falls into place?
Judd, you said it. Toughness. We were just talking about that in a meeting earlier. How do you really get down and stop somebody when it's time? When the time comes, it's a toughness. It's a mentality. It's a thought process that, you know what, you're not scoring on me right now. And players are great. It's hard to stop everybody all the time, but there could be a point in time in your mind where you decide mentally, this guy's not going to go around me. If you're going to score, you're going to shoot a jump shot over me. I'm not going to let you beat me left or right while another guy's got to help and you're going to be able to kick it out to a wide open shooter. I want to discipline myself So you're talking about toughness and discipline, and say, this guy's not going to beat me. We're going to make somebody else beat us. And that's kind of what we did. When you talk about the Ryan Miners, and we said, okay, as Coach was saying, which was a funny way to say it, he says, I'm not going to tell you how to win, I'm going to tell you how we're going to lose. And if we're going to lose, it's not going to be because that guy hit this shot. I'm not going to go to but kind of like the Kawhi Leonard thing. There's a time where you say, okay, and I thought they did a good job trying to chase him off, but mindset, he's don't have a chance. We're going to double him. We're going to run him out of bounds. We'll push him out of bounds if we have to. He's passing the ball to somebody else, and if that guy makes the shot, we'll walk up, we'll shake hands and say, good game, you beat us. You can't win them all, but you can design how you're going to lose it, as Coach would say.
Yeah.
If I'm going to lose, he's going to beat me, not him.
And you were a part of that 1993 Elite 8 team where you go on and you beat Steve Nash and his Santa Clara team. Shut Steve Nash down, basically. Just went 109 from the floor, 107 from the three. Another example of you guys kind of making life miserable for a shooter there. But what do you remember from that game and that tournament run that you guys had?
Man, great run. We started off with Missouri against Melvin Booker, Javon Crudup, who I actually got a chance to really get to know being out in Kansas City. He's a Kansas City guy. I remember they were similar to us that year. They had been struggling early in the year, and I think they turned around at that time and won maybe at that time, when in the Big 12, I think it was the Big 8, and they won the tournament and made it in. And they were some big, strong guys. I remember Coach talking about that all the time. They chicken and grits, and they're going to beat you guys up, and all this different stuff. And, we had a very good game against them. Santa Clara turns around and upsets number 2 Arizona. We wound up playing them. Again, they had Steve Nash and this guy named Woolery. I can't remember his first name, but he was a good player. And the same thing, they had never seen a zone like ours. And I think that had a lot to do with, like I said, frustrating Steve Nash and some of the players they had. So that worked out. And then we turned around and we run into a very good Vanderbilt team with Bill McCaffrey, who had transferred from Duke. And we made things tough on him. His counterpart, Ronnie McMahon, however, made up for some shots that he missed. I think he had 20. But again, that's that mentality I'm saying. Coach would say, the known, let the unknown beat you. We concentrated on McCaffrey. Ronnie McMahon had a great game, won. Had Ronnie McMahon made those shots and Bill McCaffrey made those shots, we'd probably lose. So that's, again, the thing of, if we're going to lose, this is how we're going to lose. And I think that carried on to the Michigan game. We had a very good chance of winning that game. Some things went against us late. I think there was a technical foul called. But up until like the second half, I think we had done a really good job on Chris Webber. Like, we had done a great job on him. And they bring in Eric Riley, a 7-footer off the bench, right? That'd be nice to bring a 7'1" guy off the bench that used to start for you. And he had a hell of a game and kind of ended that run. But that was a wonderful run. That did a lot building our team, just the camaraderie of everybody. From Vic Karstafen to Eddie to Aaron to Rick to all us young guys at that time. We were all freshmen, me, Derek, Petit, Cunningham, it gave us those aspirations of, hey, you can do this again. And then my career let me understand how hard that really is. Because coming back next year, we were better, but we ran to an Indiana team that, goes 10 for 20 from threes, and all of a sudden, it's like it's over. And you're like, wow, how does that happen? And that's part of, again, that's a life teaching. Nothing's easy, nothing's given to you. So you got to make the most out of every moment you get.
With that Michigan game in the 1993 run, you played the most minutes off the bench, 13 as a freshman. And what was it like just kind of playing in that game against a team like the Fab Five that was really larger than life back then?
And then it was that, but it was funny because I watched them the year before, and you kind of had, oh man, I like those long shorts they're wearing. They're wearing the black socks, they're cool. And then the next year, you're playing them, and playing for a coach like Chaney, it's like normally you'd probably be out there going, wow, I'm out here. I was just thinking, man, how the heck are we going to beat these guys? They're huge. They're 6'9", you got a 6'9" point guard, a 6'9" forward, a 6'9" center, a 6'4", 2 6'4" guys on the wing, and you're just like, wow. But then you get in the game, you're running your game plan, you're doing everything, and you look up at halftime, and you're up 10 points, and you're saying, we got a shot, and that's the only thought process is that. Win in advance. We're thinking, man, we're 20 minutes away from the Final Four. And just kind of got ripped out.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about your recruitment and how a kid from Alabama ends up here, and who else was recruiting you, and just what that was like. I imagine like if there's a John Chaney in-home visit there, that's got to be an event. Just tell us that story about how that all came together.
Yeah, talk about an event. Yeah, I'm from Gaston, Alabama, which is not as small as it sounds, but definitely ain't big. And kind of what happened, there were some schools there, Alabama, of course, Virginia Tech, Miami. When Leonard Hampton was in Miami, he came in, did a home visit, some other smaller schools, and a rumor had gotten out some kind of way that I was going to Alabama. And that wasn't necessarily true. So a lot of the schools backed off, and then Temple comes in. Coach Chaney, everybody knows he went to, Bethune-Cookman, so he was from Florida. He moves to Philly. He goes back to school in Florida. Well, a lot of people from my area, they also went to that school. So there's a lot of people that know him. And there was a coach in Birmingham that I had played against and played pretty well, obviously, I guess. And so he calls Coach and says, hey, there's a couple kids down here you might want to come down and take a look at. And it's a funny story. At that time you get recruited, you get a lot of phone calls, you get a lot of mail. A lot of times it can go from like wow to like wow, like can you leave me alone type of thing. So so there was a point when my mom was answering the phone and she was like, he's out playing ball or whatever. And the phone rings this particular day. And I pick it up, but she picks it up at the same time. So I let her, I don't say anything. She says, hello. And there's this raspy voice on the end of the phone, and it's going, hello? She says, yes. And he goes, is Jason Ivey there? And she goes, who's calling? And she goes, this is John Chaney from Temple University. And she said, Temple University, where's that? And he goes, it's in Philadelphia. And she goes, oh, my son ain't going up there, it's too cold. And that's when I go, Mom, hang up the phone. I got it. That's great. I was like,
That's great.
You can ask me, he'll tell that story too. He's like, all right, please hang up the phone. I got it. I know who this is. So, that was weird. But that actually happened. So she was doing her job. I was like, not this time, Mom. No.
So what's that like? And what was that conversation like? And then how did it progress from there?
Well, it just, he talked to me, told me, he was trying to tell me who he was, but I was trying to tell him I already knew, which that's a funny story, too. Mm-hmm. It's a quick one, too. I'll tell you what happened. My mom would kill me, but back then, she don't anymore. Nobody in the family does. She used to smoke Winston's, and she bought a carton of Winston cigarettes. Mm-hmm. And on this carton was a blooper tape. She knew I loved sports or whatever, and I'm probably 10, 11 years old. I get this tape, put the tape in, I'm watching this bloopers follies or something. So it's on there, and all of the baseball is MLB, all of the football is NBA. They get to the basketball, which is my favorite part anyway, and it's college. Mm-hmm. When I was in college, It's Big Five. I have no clue what the Big Five is. They're showing LaSalle, they're talking about Speedy Morris and his pants splitting, and then they're showing Rolly Massimino, he's throwing his hair around, and they're just going back and forth. They show Penn. I see Coach Duffy, I don't know Coach Duffy is, and all of a sudden, here's this crazy black guy that they're showing. He's talking about this one-eyed jack stare. He's talking about people undunking the ball. He's screaming at everybody. He's going nuts, and I go, man, I'll never play for that guy. True story. Again, that's why I never say never now. I said I'll never play for anybody like that. Yeah, right. Go, 8 years later? And he's on the phone and he said, this is John Chaney. I'm going, yeah, I know who you are more than once. I know Temple, and I know you that crazy guy that was on the video. But, he comes in on the home visit. I don't know how people find out he's coming in. He's coming down the street. There's people across the street yelling, Chaney, get him out of here. Take him with you. And, he comes in. My mom cooks. He's still asking for her greens to this day. He called me the other day. Your mom says the greens, don't eat them. Jason, bring them to me. So everything goes well. I'd already came up on my official visit. Aaron McKee was my host. And the first person that he introduced me to in the cafeteria was Mick Kilgore.
Oh, wow.
And Mick was going out, and me and him built a great relationship. That's the one thing I love about Temple. Again, I keep saying the word relationships, and it sounds crazy, but, I didn't play with Mark Macon. I didn't play with Tim Perry. I didn't play with Mick Kilgore. I didn't play with Darren Pearsall. Darren Pearsall just texted me. I didn't play with Jerome Dowdell. Jerome Dowdell is over in Atlanta right next door. He's texting me, I didn't play with these guys, but I know these guys. And these guys know me. Temple is a relationship place. And I think that all goes back to everything else. That's what it was. Coach built a good relationship with my mom. I said, I'm not going to Temple. She said, yes, you are. I'm signing to Temple. Nah. Coach asked, he said, I said, man, I'm coming. I said, I couldn't. Everybody else came in and said, you can do this, you can do this, you can be all conference, you can do this for us, you can do this. Coach sat at my table, looked me in the eye, and said, I can't promise you you'll ever play a minute for me. I don't know if you're good enough. But I can promise you one thing. You leave Temple, you have your degree, and you'll be a better man. I like that. Mm-hmm. I like that he was real, and then I also like the challenge. Mm-hmm. People say, take the Temple challenge. So it was not only that really brought me in, but I also said, man, that makes me a better person. But Coach, I also believe I can play for you.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you a follow-up question with that, because things are obviously, everything's different now. Like, recruiting rankings didn't exist like the way they do now. Social media didn't exist. Again, you can't go out and recruit, but Aaron's going out and recruiting. And he said before, I still have to remind my kids who I am. Some of these kids that weren't alive in 2001.
Yeah.
But do you think that stuff still resonates with kids today, where it is a different generation, and it's not just the high school coach or the parent. You've got handlers, you've got 6 different AAU coaches and stuff. Does that, because Aaron still, all of you guys borrow from stuff that John Chaney said, you think that still resonates on the road today when he can look a guy, obviously he's going to talk basketball from stuff, but can that still separate Temple from some other schools out there?
John, I think it can, but it all depends on the kid's mentality.
Right.
It depends on what he's been told, how he's been raised, and I guess the kind of person that they want to be. There's a lot, you read all the stuff. Everybody knows what's going on. There's money going here and there, and you read about that and you go, wow, the game is real. I think that's a little misguided in a way, because I think in a kid's heart that wants to play basketball, that's really what they want to do, period. And I think if more people were honest with the kids and told them, hey, you need to be better at this, you need to do this, this is what you need to do. I believe they would respond a lot differently than a lot of people think they would. A lot of people think they'd be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, I'm going to go over here to this other program or whatever. I think we always said this about our kids growing up. Kids aren't stupid. They know if you care. They know if you don't. They know if you're pulling their coattail. I think if you're building a relationship with them, a real, true relationship, and you're honest with them, I think kids can ascertain that. And I think the ones with the right mentality, we can get. Anybody can get if you build that relationship. But I think the honesty goes a lot further than people think it would.
Is there a favorite Chaney story? I mean, I know you already mentioned one, but is there a favorite Chaney story that you could share with us?
Probably not. I could share it with you, but you probably won't turn the mic off. But no, there's so many. I mean, Coach just had some. We were laughing in there a couple of days ago. Everybody was just pulling quotes out. It was just like, he said this and he said that. A blind man has no reason at the circus. He can't see nothing. He didn't say nothing, but again, they all come back and forth, and they were all about life, and that's why they're so memorable, because he was that guy. He was that guy that you knew cared. He was the guy that said, "Hey, we can win this game, but the only way to do it is for you to run through that wall." Well, you will try to run through that wall. Not just because he said it, but because you've probably seen him try to run through that wall for you already. So if he was willing to do it, and that's what it takes, point me to the wall, Coach. Somebody better help that wall, because I'm coming till I get knocked out. So that's what he brought. That's what he brought with everything. Everything was life.
Yeah, so we've got some mailbag questions for you. These are coming from some of them from Twitter, some of them from our message board. First one actually comes from Colin Thompson, who's a former Temple football player. Actually was in with the Saints this past weekend. So Colin has his own podcast too. So his question to you is, what is the biggest challenge with a new group of student athletes and staff members? How has the buy-in been so far? And where is your favorite place to eat on campus or in Philadelphia? Got a couple there.
Like I said before, the buy-in from the kids has been great. The staff, I think, a lot of people are a little leery, but, man, I think the staff is great. You got, Jimmy Finnerty, who, man, works his butt off. I remember my table when he was at St. Joe's. I know, Chris kind of crossed over from Coach Chaney to Coach Dunphy. I would come, I saw Chris play. Again, I've always been in there. So a lot of us, it seems a little more widespread, but a lot of us know each other, which is really good. So it's not hard to build a relationship there. So that's a good thing. It's a good start. And I think he's put people in positions where he knows this guy's better at this guy's better at that, this guy's better at that. So we can handle that. We can help him in those areas. Man, I'll be honest with you, my favorite place to eat on campus is gone. We used to love the Owl's Nest, which was right across from J&H. Yeah, So now looking around, the guys that took me to the, my other friends, Chris Laws and some of them that I played with, they take me to the draft house over there a little bit. I don't know. It's not the Owl's Nest, man. I got to find it. Hey, Colin, if you've got any recommendations, tell me, man. I'll go find a good cheesesteak anywhere.
Here you go. Next question comes from the screen name is Al Dumpf. For Jason, in your opinion, what do Justin Hamilton, Jake Forrester, and Erasmus Parks bring to the table?
Size.
Yeah.
Size. That's something you can't teach. But if you get size, you can teach size to do something. You can't teach nothing to be big. I can't take a 6'2" guy and say, "Hey man, you're playing great today, but this next game I need you to be 7'3" for me." Mm-hmm. He's not going to be able to do it. Mm-hmm. But I can take a 6'8", 6'9" guy, teach him to put his hands up, tell him to put his, they bring size. So I think they're going to bring a lot of help, on the floor defensively. Rebounding, we're going to have to replace a lot of stuff that we're going to lose with Earn. So, I mean, I think those guys have a great chance to help us just be big.
Mm-hmm. Next question, the screen name is Hootie Hoot. Considering you've seen our recent bigs the past 2 seasons at Temple, what, aside from toughness, do you think is keeping them from putting up more decent numbers?
Well, I have watched the bigs. That's a tough question. I mean, because not from being that. I mean, if you look at when I played, me, Derek, we were bigger guys. We had better guards. Our numbers weren't off the chart. So all you're looking for from a big guy is the opportunity to rebound the ball well, play defensively, and become the player that they are meant to be. For some of those guys, that might be a 20 and 10 guy. For some of them, it might be 5 points and 8 rebounds. It all comes together to either wins or losses. We need them to help us win. That's it. Whether it's 20 points, whether it's 5 points, whether it's he dove on the floor and got that loose ball that led to a lead out and Nate Pierre got a dunk or whatever. We just need effort, and I think if they can bring that, whatever they're meant to be, we'll get a chance to come out, especially with the way the offense and everything runs, with the openness and everything. I think they'll have some more chances, and we'll see how they respond to it.
Mm-hmm. Next question, another screen name, Moose Jake 008, more of a strategic or X-No question. Are you a big guy, be strong on the block guy, or like a screen and roll type of guy? So, I mean, I know when you play.
Did he watch me play? Yeah. He sounded like, repeat those again. Yeah. Let's see.
I guess I don't know if he's asking if that's what you like seeing out of the game now. Do you still like seeing guys post up, or do you think the game has just become so much?
The game is so open now, but there's so much still. You got your guys. Big guys. You got to be able to make threes now. You got to be able to do this and do that. But to me, the game really ain't changed a whole lot. There's new skills, but the game is the same. I mean, there's nothing like pick and roll. You want to pick and roll, somebody's got to make a decision. If I want to pick and roll with a 6'2" guy and a 6'11" guy, and the 6'11" guy winds up playing my 6'2" guard, and I've got a 6'2" guard playing my 6'11" guy, then he needs to roll to the post. He needs to see if he can break out, maybe beat him on one-on-one. Can we get the ball to the post? That's a mismatch. Setting screens, like I said, that's what I did. That was my forte, from setting screens and rolls, getting easy baskets, getting rebounds and putbacks. So as much as the game has changed, it hasn't changed a lot. You can still pop a big out and take a shot. But I've always been a firm believer. If you can put the defense at a disadvantage, that's what gives you opportunity to win games.
Mm-hmm. Final question from the mailbag comes from TU Owls fan, 2004. A couple of questions here. What was your experience like under John Chaney as a grad assistant, as opposed to being in the role of a coach and a grad assistant and seeing him differently as you did as a player? And what's something you take from him that you apply to your life, be it personally or professionally?
Being a grad assistant for coach really wasn't that difficult, but it wasn't that. It was like by that time I got used to him yelling at me. So if he was yelling at me as a grad assistant, I was like, "Yeah, all right, coach." I didn't say that, but that's that's how I felt. Yeah. Do what he says, and then move on with it, because all he's trying to do is make you better. Everything he does in life is trying to make you better. And then as far as what I take from him, man. How long is this podcast? Boy,
That's a lot, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, every story he told, everything he did would relate you back to life. Mm-hmm. So all I would say is Coach kept his promise that he made to me when I was 18 years old. He was sitting at the table when he said, "You're going to graduate and you're going to become a better man. And everything he did from that point to today has been basically that. I mean, I was making a joke to somebody. He called me 6 years ago, and I was at a gas station, and he was still yelling at me. Jason, you're not listening. I'm trying to tell you. So,
What was he yelling at you about?
He was yelling at me about not listening, and I should be quiet and listen to him talk. And what happened was, I had got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm not going to win. Just shut up, let him talk. But I'm at the gas station. A guy pulls up that I know, and he says, "Hey, Jay, what's up?" And I said, "What's going on?" "You're still talking. I just told you to shut up and listen." And I'm just shaking my head. Got the guys go, "Shh, you better be quiet too." At that point. So it was, it was just coach being coach. Coach being coach, man.
Jason, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for spending some time with us, and we'll look forward to catching up with you soon. Appreciate it.
Man, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
So again, some good stories there. Again, if you are a Temple basketball fan or a Temple grad who watched some of those teams that Jason Ivey played on, I'm sure he brought back a lot of memories. Talking about playing against Juwan Howard and Chris Webber and those teams, and just the John Chaney stories about his recruitment. What stood out to you about the interview? What did you enjoy from it?
The Chaney stories were definitely good. How he told the story about how Chaney called the house phone. His mom picked up and said, "Hey, where are you from?" John Chaney from Temple University. She said, "Oh, where's that?" He said, "Philadelphia." She said, "Oh, that's too cold."
Mom, hang up the phone. I got this. It was great.
So I thought that was a good one. Obviously, hearing about Chaney and the stories, I could listen to those all day. And you heard him bring up the whole culture thing. I thought that's interesting.
Yep.
How we've talked to just about every assistant, or and Macon and Ivy as well. We're hoping to get Aaron McKee on the podcast soon as well. But everybody seems to bring up the whole thing about culture, and there is something to that, and it goes from setting the tone in practice to what the guys do in the day throughout their lives, whether it's lifting or whether it's going to class or whatever they might be doing. There's something to that culture, and when you step into that building, it might sound corny, but there is a different feel to it. And obviously they're doing changes. They're about to redo the weight room, and so the building doesn't really look that much different structurally, at least. I mean, it's relatively new,
but it will soon.
But it will look different, and it definitely has a different feel to it. And all the coaches have certainly touched on that.
Yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that conversation. Again, big thanks to Jason for being with us, and we are hoping to get, we've now talked to Jimmy Fennerty, Chris Clark, Monte Ross, now Jason Ivey, Mark Macon. We are hoping to catch up with Aaron McKee pretty soon. Sit down with him for hopefully another lengthy conversation. Get him on the podcast pretty soon. We'll hope to get you more guests over the summer. Let's touch a little bit, and we've got some football-related mailbag questions here, but just wanted to pass along a couple of football recruiting updates. They've got some offers out. A few of the most recent ones that went out. Gabe Neely, a 2021 kid who's an athlete from Gulliver Prep down in, I believe that's Miami, 6'4", 175-pound athlete. Kevin Kalanji, a 2020 kid from Archbishop Carroll, not the one here outside of Philadelphia on the main line, but the one in D.C. He's a 6'4", 313-pound defensive tackle, has a lot of high major offers. They have an offer out to Jake Ketchick, who's a class of 2021 kid, also listed at 6'4", 318. He's a left tackle at St. Augustine Prep, about 45 minutes away out in South Jersey. So those are some of the recent football offers that have gone out. No new football recruits. We'll hope to get you some more recruiting content soon.
Camp season's coming up.
Yeah,
too.
Camp season's coming up at the end of this month, right?
Yep, I believe the first one's at the end of May.
Yeah, so then you'll most likely start to see, again, even though it's Rod Carey and it's a new coach who's not necessarily part of that Al Golden coaching tree. I think he's talked about wanting to do things the same way, trusting the tape, bringing kids in during camp. And you still have people like Ed Foley around and, of course, Fran Brown around. And I think we can probably expect to see probably some more verbals over, the end of this month into June. They'll probably take the same approach. They'll probably get a lot of committed guys and probably have the majority of their class figured out by the summer, I would think, right?
Of that last recruiting class that they just brought in, I think you could count on one hand of how many guys were not at camp. And obviously it's a new staff, but I would expect to see that same thing where, they're going to want to get these guys, the guys that are currently committed now, I think they're going to try and get all those guys to come in and work out because, you can go to a game and see a kid live and it still isn't the same as, being on that same level and working with a kid in that camp setting. So that's certainly going to be a way for them to get kids on campus and then also, kind of do their evaluations in person.
And so additionally, a couple of other basketball recruiting tidbits to pass along before we get into the portion of the mailbag here. Questions are just specifically geared for us. Dominguez Stevens, I think we might mention this last week. Temple's offered him class of 2020 player down at Woodrow Wilson outside of D.C. He's a 4-star kid, ranked 78th in the 2020 class by Rivals, has a lot of high major offers, a guy to keep an eye on there. And then recently, about a week ago, Temple had Stevie Mitchell and Zach Hicks, a couple of Philly Pride guys, in for an unofficial visit. Stevie Mitchell has a LaSalle offer. That's really his only notable offer so far, but these are some younger guys. Zach Hicks from Camden Catholic. I've talked to a couple people about him. They think he has a chance to be a really good player. Will probably be Camden Catholic's best returning player next year. Stevie Mitchell plays at Westlawn, Wilson Westlawn outside of Reading. So a couple of names to keep an eye on there. So heading into 2020, Temple has 3 scholarships to give. At one point it was 6 before you brought in some of the recent recruits. And we'll keep an eye on Jake Forrester and Ty Strickland. As of now, they would be, just by NCAA rules, be slated to sit out next year. We'll see if they get waivers. We'll see if they're pursuing waivers. We'll keep you updated on that. And, of course, again, the next few weeks, I think things will start to pick up with recruiting for both football and basketball. Let's get to these mailbag questions for us. We've got about 4 or 5 of them here. First one comes from Esther Boyer on the message boards. Granted, it's only been a few months, but can you name anything you have noticed that is already drastically different about the program, meaning the basketball program, in Aaron's control? As a fan, it's strange to see coaches tagged by recruits on social media, but what has already changed on the inside?
I think we talked to Jason about his shooting improvements that he made during his career, how he can relate that to being director of player development. And one thing that kind of stood out to me is, and he talked about how it comes down to repetition. Aaron and the staff have made it so the guys have mandatory times where they have to go in and have mandatory shoot around, basically, where they have a partner on the team and they have to go in and shoot for 45 minutes or even an hour. It doesn't have to be 3-hour sessions, but they just want the guys getting up shots every day, early morning, maybe late at night. Even though they have organized team workouts right now, they're limited with the cap that the NCAA has on the amount of hours that they can work with the coaches. So, that's a big thing with the practice facility that they have. They can go in there and shoot at 2 o'clock in the morning if they want, or 6 a.m. I think that's one thing that's definitely changed right off the bat is, these guys are getting up shots, and whether it's by choice or, the coach is telling them they have to, they're going to be in the gym and they're going to be working on their game, even if it's just, one or 2 of the guys on the team just working together. I think that's one thing that's kind of stood out.
Yeah, and I think even just going back, like a couple people have asked me just in casual conversation, what's different? What has he done? I think Aaron's done 2 things so far, among others. He won the press conference, and he's upgraded the talent on the roster. He came in, we've talked about this several times now, he was genuine, he was honest, he was emotional in the press conference, a nice backdrop at McGonigal Hall, and he talked, again, we've said this before, talk is cheap until you do it, but he said, I don't feel the need to apologize for wanting to win a national championship. He's like, it's going to take some work, and I don't want to grandstand, but we want to win. I'm here to win, and I want to be able to win a title here. And I think fans needed to hear that. And you touched on it earlier at the outside of the show. every coach we've talked to said they fit our culture. Again, like, I'm sure Fran Dunphy wanted to win. I'm sure his assistants wanted to win, but you just haven't heard that as much on basketball now. This kid fits our culture. That fits our culture of toughness, of hard work, of getting back to where we used to be. I think, at least again, I think some fans are like, thank you. We've been waiting to hear that. Now, gotta go out there and win games. If not, it's meaningless. But I think that's changed. Your example's a good, really specific one. And I think even we were just having after we stopped recording, we continued to talk to Jason for a little bit today, and he was like, I think, when Aaron's opening his mouth now, he's really kind of, really establishing himself now, and guys are saying, whoa. Mm-hmm. Okay, like we've talked about this before. Now that Aaron is the CEO of the program and he's running the show, he had input before. Fran Dunphy's always been good about allowing his assistants to have input, but it's a different beast when you have one person. Now it's a new voice running the show, and it does feel a little different over there. Again, there's been change. They're going to be working on the weight room and getting them a new weight room. But again, you catch people's attention when you upgrade the talent on the roster. We'll see what Ty Strickland can do. We'll see what Jake Forrester can do. We'll see what Josh Pierre-Louis can do. But when you bring in a couple of top 150 recruits, again, they have to make good on that. If Josh Pierre-Louis can come in and affect things right away as a freshman by being a good, drive and dish type of guy who's athletic, who can defend. You bring in a guy who, last year you were absolutely not a factor in his recruitment and Jake Forrester's recruitment. And now he wants to come play for Aaron McKee. People are going to notice. So things do feel different. And I think, I think there's a little bit more of a buzz around the program that we haven't seen in a while. We'll see how it translates into October, into next season. But those are some things I'd throw out there to answer that question. Next question, Hootie Hoot, our most loyal, probably our most consistent and loyal question asker, right?
Yeah, and a great screen name, too.
Yeah, tremendous. This is, so he had a question for Jason Ivey. Now another question for us. What is the case with special teams, and do we have a backup kicker? Of course, for football, and connected to both the American, for football and basketball, the Memphis athletic director just stepped down. Do you think Norvell leaves after next season, referring to Memphis' football coach? All right, so what Hootie Hoot is referring to there is Temple had a couple of committed incoming recruits who, quote-unquote, flipped. David Brancotti was a punter from Connecticut who was flipping to Rutgers. He was decided to go to Rutgers, and then Jackson Balter is a kicker who is headed to Buffalo. I'm guessing that they're going to those schools because they have scholarships there, maybe.
At Temple, they were going to be preferred walk-ons.
Yeah, so they were going to be preferred walk-ons at Temple, and does Temple have a backup kicker and punter? Yes. I mean, look, Will Mobley and then Jacob Lafree, who they're bringing in from Indianapolis, they're going to compete for the kicking job. Adam Barry is the JUCO punter who they've signed, and then I guess right now Max Cavalucci would be your backup. So yes, they have players there that can compete, but
still have Will Mobley coming back.
Will's gonna. I mean, if Jacob Lafree is for whatever reason a complete bust, I don't think he is. A couple of the coaches have told me that he's got a pretty strong leg. He's going to compete with Will Mobley's going to compete with Jacob Lafree, and Will prove that he can kick. Does he have a really strong leg? No, but he's a serviceable kicker. And then again, you have Cavalucci backing up Adam Barry. So that's the kicking situation there. Next question from Moose Jake 008. He's talking about football here. Will you want to have a lot of rotation on the defensive line so everyone can really rush the passer because they're arrested? Do you have the depth for a good rotation? Talking about Temple's defensive line. I think any coaching staff is going to say, we want to create depth along the defensive line. You and I were talking about this before we started recording. I mean, you've got Cromo Diabate and Dan Archibong are probably your starting defensive tackles, right? Quincy Roche and Dana Levine are maybe your starting defensive ends.
Yeah, probably the two ends.
Nick Midori coming off injury should probably be part of things.
Yeah, he's 100%.
Chris Banks, they seem excited about it, defensive tackle.
Afam Majay is another guy who played his minutes or his playing time definitely increased as the season went on.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I think they feel like they have depth there. And of course, I think most staffs want to rotate guys so they remain fresh and they can spell certain guys and not get as tired, and of course put pressure on the quarterback. So those are some of the names I think you'd be looking at there in terms of that defensive line rotation. Okay, next question comes from what TU. Now that this round of Temple players have been drafted or signed as undrafted free agents, what's your way too early prediction for who on the roster has a shot at getting picked in next year's draft?
Well, the first one that comes to mind, Dan Archibong. I think he has as good of a chance as anybody at getting drafted.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've been saying that for a while now. Isaiah Wright too, of course. Just his skill is there.
Especially interesting. I mean, if he puts up some good numbers, if they utilize him as much as they say they want to, he's got the speed. He'll be interested to watch.
Yeah, it'll probably just depend on touches for him. I mean, we know what his capabilities are, and now we're just going to have to see what kind of numbers he can put up in this offense. The offensive line, the offensive line is still relatively young, considering they had basically two freshmen started at tackle, and Adam Klein and Isaac Moore. But Jovan Fair is a guy that certainly could get some NFL looks. Harrison Hand, obviously the transfer coming in from Baylor, if he's able to get a waiver, which is still an if right now, but assuming he's able to get a hardship waiver, I think he certainly has aspirations to go to the NFL and maybe make that happen as quickly as he can. He'll have 2 years left to play if he chooses to do so we'll see how that all plays out. You talked about Quincy Roche too, and he obviously has 2 years left as well, but if he has a big year, he could certainly be a guy that ends up leaving. And the linebackers, Sean Bradley and Chappelle Russell, I think both those guys in their senior years will have chances to at least end up in NFL camps. Karamo as well. Karamo, obviously his numbers haven't been there, but the frame is certainly there, and if he can put up a pretty big senior year as in his first year as a starter, I certainly think he'll have an opportunity to go to an NFL camp.
And then maybe Linwood Crump is a guy who maybe he's your Nate Hairston that people aren't maybe looking at heading into the season. A couple of stats that Pro Football Focus put out about him. Linwood Crump only allowed a 29 passer rating, nabbed 3 interceptions, and didn't allow a touchdown last season. We would define that as really good, reading that directly from an April 30th tweet that they sent out. And then another one, Temple's Linwood Crump allowed a mere 0.70 yards per cover snap last season, leading returning cornerbacks in the American Athletic Conference. So they liked him a lot coming out of Sayreville High School. He's fast. Maybe he's the guy that grows into like that next really good draftable Temple cornerback. And again, if Harrison Hand gets his waiver, you could have 2 really good starting corners there. So yeah, I agree. That's a pretty good list. Obviously, which of those guys gets drafted will be more defined by what they do in the season, if they get combine invites, stuff like that. So those are some names to chew on there. We do have one question, I believe, coming in via text from Pat Egan, our friend of the program from 97.5. Yeah. Recently, it seems like there's been a palpable buzz around the program, especially with former players. Because of this, where do you now see their chances with Lynn Greer, broken record? And I don't have another question because I'm about to do a spin class.
Working out, I like it.
Yeah. I don't know where things stand with Lynn Greer III. He's got some decent offers. I think it's got to be a situation where, obviously, it sounds like a super obvious statement, he's got to want to be at Temple. I think he has respect for Aaron. I think Lynn Greer II, his father, has a lot of respect for Aaron. I really think that, again, we talked about the fact that they have 3 scholarships left to give now for that 2020 class. They're heavy on guards right now. Would they like to have Lynn's kid? Absolutely. It'll be interesting to follow his recruitment. Again, do I think they have a little bit of a better shot with Aaron? Yeah, but I can't get a good read on it. I couldn't sit here right now and say, oh yeah, now that Aaron's here, Lynn's definitely coming.
No, it's not a slam dunk at all. But I think what it does I mean, we'll have to see how things play out over the summer for Lynn. I mean, he's going to have to go on to the Nike circuit, and he's going to have to play well because we'll see what his offer sheet looks like.
Absolutely.
And, where he can go for official visits come, September. So I think that's going to be a big driving thing for him is, does he have the Blue Bloods on him in September? Does he have Louisville on him in September? Like, does he have those sorts of offers, or, is it a little bit of, at least the lower tier ACC schools? Like, is it on that level? So I don't think we have a clear idea of what his recruitment's going to look like in September, because it's probably going to come down to a lot about what he does over this summer, because he has some stuff to prove, I think. But yeah, I'm sure Temple, in an ideal world, they would like to have him, but they also have to go out there and identify other targets for 2020, as they've already done. There's plenty of other guards out there that they like, so they're gonna have to figure out what's a fit for them, and who likes Temple, and it's a two-way street. So they're gonna have to figure out the guards that fit the program, and the guards that want to come here, and if it all shakes out in September where Lynn wants to come and Temple's his best landing spot, then I think it'll work out. But it's certainly not a slam dunk that'll come here, and I don't think, if Aaron McKee was being honest with you, and he can't talk about recruits on the record, but even if he could, I think he'd tell you, hey, I don't know where Lynn's going.
Well, that'll do it for this week. Again, a big thank you to Jason Ivey for spending a lot of time with us and talking about coming back to Temple, sharing some good stories. Thank you to Matt Vender for being here and not leaving me here by myself as we, again, do this podcast without Graham Foley and Kyle Gauss. Hope to have them back next week. And thanks for listening, guys. We're 40 episodes in, and I hope you guys are having a good time with the show, and we will talk to you next week.